Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club Podcast, where every month we deep dive into a different aspect of cinema, genre, directors, actors, or franchises. It doesn't matter. It's always fun at the Film Club. I'm Dean.
I'm Boo.
And this month we're talking about silent films, and this week we're talking about
The Gold Rush.
That's right, 1925. Charlie Chaplin directed, starring, produced, written by...
Built the sets.
Built the set. Masterpiece, The Gold Rush.
Built the studio.
Built the studio, yeah. Built 2 studios.
Yeah. And this is also our kickoff of January. This is our first episode of the year.
Yes, this is our first episode of 2024. And starting off on a really high note with, like, your personal favorite director?
One of them, yeah.
Okay, and this is my personal favorite film that this director's made. There's, like, only one other film that's even close to this.
And this was the film that Charlie Chaplin wanted to be remembered for.
Yeah, I read that, and that's kind of interesting, because I don't know how many people out there realize that the guy with the bowler hat and the little Hitler mustache, that's Charlie Chaplin.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, he is, like, the most well-remembered silent film star, maybe the most remembered movie star in history.
One of the most remembered people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, pop culture-wise. You see the bowler hat, the mustache, and the cane, and the penguin waddle, you know that that's Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to see any of his movies, you recognize him as part of pop culture.
It's a very iconic look, and it's odd that he said that this was the movie he wanted to be remembered for, where... like, he made, like, a lot of bangers. Like, The Great Dictator,
yeah.
City Lights, Modern Times. I know you're a big fan of The Kid. This was almost a Kid episode.
This was almost the Kid episode, but I figured that this one might be better because this is a little bit more flushed out from The Kid. The Kid was his first feature film, and it makes me cry every time, and I didn't want to start off the new year in tears.
Just because Uncle Fester's in that movie.
It's true, he is in that movie. Jackie Coogan.
Which is weird, because it's Uncle Fester. He's the old guy from TV, and he plays the little boy.
He plays the kid.
Yeah, it's... Chaplin's very interesting, because his career goes back so far to, like, dawn of cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie's almost 100 years old, and it's still, like, relevant to film and television and pop culture now. Yeah, I'd argue it still holds up. But yeah, because, like we were kind of, like, starting with, Charlie Chaplin. Big director. Your personal relationship with this guy, this filmmaker, you know, the oeuvre that this guy makes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've watched his movies for years. It's hard for me to just pick my favorite because almost all of his movies are bangers. And yeah, I mean, I think I understand why he wants to be remembered the most for this one, because he wants the tramp to be, you know, anybody, but he doesn't go searching for wealth. He's just moving along through life. He wants to be loved, and he gets the girl in the end. It's
funny because that's like the most people call that the most tropey by the numbers like story you can come up with, but that's the story that Chaplin told a lot.
Yeah.
You know, his famous character, the tramp, always starts off as the lowest bottom of the barrel you can get.
Down on his luck.
Super down on his luck, rises as high as the story demands. Either that's like, oh, he caught the girl and he skipped town and he avoided this, or, oh, he, you know, got the kid he wanted and he's not going to be poor anymore. Like, stuff like that. Always ends up with the girl or, you know, finds love or yada, yada, yada. But I think the Gold Rush is interesting because it is Chaplin at his lowest low to the highest high, with the love interest that I think is the least redeemable of his love interests.
Yeah, because I mean, it's very different from the gamine in Modern Times, where they've just kind of, you know, they're both down on their luck, but there's a relationship there. There's an understanding. There's an attraction there.
It's not like City Lights, where the girl is almost like oblivious to Chaplin for the first half of the movie.
Well, in City Lights, she's blind. So it's just, you know, she's trying to make a profit by selling flowers on the corner. And it's not until she hears the car door where it's like, oh, this nice man happens to be wealthy. But in this movie, it's kind of, you know, oh, that's nice. You know, he fought for me, but we're going to tease him and pretend that, you know, I have a crush on him.
Yeah.
When I'm in love with this jerk that he got into the fight with.
Yeah, like the Gold Rush is a very it's a very interesting movie when you look at it on like the macro.
But she does redeem herself in the end.
Yeah, in the last scene.
But he made it count. He made it
the
count.
last scene she redeems herself.
But I will go with you in agreement that, yeah, it's kind of...
It's a complicated love interest.
Is agreement's a word? I don't think it's a word.
It's what is a word?
I don't know. We'll forget it. But I will agree with you that this is kind of interesting that this is the one he wants to be remembered for when you have...
like The Great Dictator.
The Great Dictator, where it's, it's basically a big F you to Hitler, and it's just, standing up and, people should be more understanding of each other. The strong message that is in The Great Dictator. But, it also shows kind of, how humble he is, where it's just like, yeah, I've played this character that's down on his luck, and it doesn't matter if he, if he wins in the end. He's just looking for happiness. He's not looking for a payday.
See, it's interesting when you say humble, because the Gold Rush is also his most expensive film.
Yeah,
or his most expensive at the time, and it's his most profitable film.
It's the number 5 top profitable silent film of all time.
Yes, and I think it's the number 1 most profitable comedy of all time.
And I think what's so shocking about this movie, because, I've seen this movie a bunch of times. I really tried to analyze it for this podcast. Only one of the scenes in this movie was done on location.
Was it the opening?
Yeah, with the men going up the mountain.
Yeah, which looks fucking huge.
And I mean, it messed with my vertigo watching it on my TV. I was just like, I'm gonna fall down that mountain. Like, I'm trying to hold on to the couch. Like, don't fall.
Yeah, we should tell people what the movie's about. Okay, I just realized this. We're like almost 10 minutes in. I don't think we've told anybody what the Gold Rush is about. It's about the Gold Rush, everybody. But
boom, there we go. We told them.
But yeah, I got the back of the box here. I know, the first back of the box of 2024.
I mean, we literally have the back of the box.
We do have the back of the box, but it's the Criterion version. Like, I love Criterion, by the way. Everyone, you should, like, if you're looking for old movies, silent films, Charlie Chaplin films, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, go Criterion. They're the best versions of those. But the back of the box usually is not describing what the movie is. It's describing, man, do you know how awesome the special features are on these?
It's true, they are awesome.
I actually watched both versions of the Gold Rush on this last night, because I accidentally put on the 42 version before the 25.
What an amateur.
I know. But
you're always, boo, you gotta watch the 200-minute version, you can't watch this.
Because Andrei Rublev, the edited version, that's Tarkovsky's preferred version, but whatever. But the back, the Gold Rush Criterion, it literally says, it's like, oh, the Gold Rush, an indelible work of heartwarming hilarity. This special edition features both Chaplin's definitive 1942 version, for which the director added new music and narration and new restoration of the original 25. It literally just tells you, like, all the cool features on it. It doesn't tell you really about the plot. Some of them do, some of them don't. But I have the plot for you guys.
Okay.
Alright? Because the Gold Rush, the back of the box. A lone prospector seeks his fortune in the Alaskan wilderness, but once there he is caught in a snowstorm with a gold miner and an outlaw, and through a comedy of errors they manage to survive so that our lone prospector can make it to town and fall for the beautiful dancing girl. And he tries to win her heart, but he is thwarted by I wrote debonair Jack, but I'm gonna go with handsome Jack, kind of an asshole. And our lone prospector thinks he might be able to win her heart with the help of that gold miner and a wealth hidden on the mountain. But that's generally the gist of it.
Yeah, there's hidden gold.
They're trapped in a snowstorm. They're trying to, like, survive. The first half of the movie is literally like a survival tale.
Yeah.
Because it opens with that big, huge shot where you get vertigo, where they're coming down the mountain and they're going up to the Alaskan wilderness, and it's huge. There's like 100-something extras.
And you've got, men that are passing out in the snow because, they're just trying to climb this gargantuan mountain. And it's so interesting that, Charlie Chaplin got this idea from a trip that he took to Alaska, seeing men, climb the mountain hills and the peaks. But also he got the idea really for the story at Pickfair, the home of Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's just kind of, in the biopic that we watched and reviewed, Chaplin, last year,
Yeah.
We see...
Our longest episode of... our longest, like, you and me episode last year. Yeah, Chaplin was the longest episode where it was just you and me with no guests.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a long episode, and I ain't gonna lie, most of it was us being like, where the fuck are his other 7 kids? Like, what the fuck?
We just keep missing people. Like, where'd you go?
Oh, yeah. It's like, why is no one mentioning any, like, Buster Keaton? Where's D.W. Griffith? United Artist is unmentioned in this film.
It's, like, briefly mentioned. But
it's mentioned in, like, passing in, like, a filler scene. But yes, sorry to interrupt. That movie annoys me, even though Robert Downey Jr. is so good in it.
You love that movie.
It's a good movie. It is just a movie that irks me to no end, because it should have been a miniseries. It should have been like a 4-episode, hour-long miniseries. Because,
I mean, he lived such a long life and such an interesting life. It's like we needed to hit all these different facets of time that he passed through. But to tie it to Chaplin, just to see how interesting it was for him when he gets these ideas.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this movie about, people that are looking for gold, and, there's an outlaw, and there's, the lonely prospector.
I mean, he also got the idea from the Donner Party.
Yeah.
The whole, because there's the thing, it's like, well, they ate each other, but they ate their shoes and all this other stuff before they resorted to, doing what they did. And it's like, Chaplin takes, like, really tragic stuff and makes it comedic. Yeah. Like, a lot of his movies are kind of like, Modern Times is like, people are being worked to death in factories and people are getting hurt, and he turns it into, like, a comedy of, like, setting and airs and all these other things.
Because, I mean, if you're gonna do just a straight drama, you're gonna get, issues kind of like with The Great Dictator, where people didn't understand that it was satire.
Which is hilarious to me, because the Great Dictator is it's a comedy.
It's a comedy.
It's a political comedy, but from the opening, it's satirical.
Yeah, but that just shows the genius of him, where he's able to mix in, real life issues and throw some comedy on it, so it's, not too much, well, you're just trying to shove this down my throat. It's like, no, I'm trying to inform you, but also make you laugh at the same time.
Well, I mean, he's always been a little bit of, like, a political filmmaker. I mean, The Immigrant got him into a lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah.
And The Immigrant was a movie that's pretty critical of the immigration process to the United States. But that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about the Gold Rush. And I think we should go back to, like, the beef we had with Georgia in this movie, who's the leading lady, the love interest.
Yes.
The dancing girl in our plot synopsis.
Yeah.
She is the most complicated figure in the movie, in the fact that I don't really like her through most of the film, because she's a little mean. She's
playing with him.
She's playing with him, yeah, because she's in love with the Jack character, Handsome Jack, I think is what they call him.
Jackass,
yeah, that guy. And again, she's only redeemed in the last, like, scene of the movie. And it's one of those things where it's like, I know Chaplin, he always has a love interest that, the tramp pines for, right? Yeah. That's in every one of his movies. It's part of the oeuvre, it's the auteur thing. But all the other ones that at least I've seen have been like, okay, they're on his level, or they're above his level, but they're, like, good people. She's the only one I'm thinking is like, you're not really a good person. You're kind of a bitch, ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
I mean, am I a little off? Am I being too mean to her?
Well, I think, she's kind of a bully. And then, her friends really, let's play a prank on him. Let's do this. And you have, Handsome Jackass that's like, oh, this fool, I'll beat him up. I don't care, anything to impress you. But I could have any of, those dancing girls over there. I don't need you. Yeah. So it's just this vicious cycle with these group of people. And it's just, you've got the lonely prospector that's like, I only have eyes for you. And it's over time, she starts to see, wow, you really would, do anything to appease me and to make my friends happy and
doing
to protect
anything
me.
To win my heart.
Yeah. And it's finally, at the very end, she's kind of like...
The last scene of the movie is the only time she's legitimately nice to him.
Yeah. And I think it's important, because it's, by that point, he's already wealthy. And it's kind of this thing where, he doesn't have to really test her. She, steps forward and tries to protect him.
Yeah, because she still thinks he's that poor, lonely prospector. And it is a thing where she's like, altruistically, she is helping him.
Yeah.
But I'm almost like, too little too late, honey.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're in love, you're in love. And, even when he finally does hit wealth, he's got that same, crumpled up picture that he has of her right next to him because he just, he has everything, but he doesn't have her.
Yeah. I guess that is something that's interesting in the Chaplin canon is even, even if he has wealth, he's always like, well, wealth means nothing without love, right?
Yeah, that's why it's like, yeah, I'm sure anyone would love, oh, I just, lucked into $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. But he's just kind of like, cool, I got some nice clothes now, but it's not really what my heart wants.
Which is a sweet narrative turn that he does in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, that's the narrative turn, the character-driven stuff. The genius is in the comedy aspects, the building of these gags. Because, we mentioned it's a survival drama for the first half. And then the last half, it's like, when they go back to the cabin, it's just like another disaster movie.
Mm-hmm.
The whole cabin gets flown off, it's teetering on the edge of the cliff, and they gotta manage to survive. And I'm curious, do you think these the cabin bits, is that his best gags? Does this movie contain the best gags of Chaplin's career?
I think so. I mean, it's so hard because I love all his other movies. But it's just, you have the chicken gag, you have the eating of the shoes, you have the bear.
Yeah.
It's just like, there's so much going on. And it's just, because he makes everything feel so real, it's like, yeah, I could totally believe that this is happening in the middle of nowhere. When it's happening on La Brea Boulevard. And it's just, you're able to disguise your set into an actual world. And I think, yeah, this has to be the best of the best.
I mean, just when you look at the sets, like you said, the cabin set, you're watching it, I'm like, oh, the whole cabin's actually moving.
Mm-hmm. It's teetering,
which is fascinating that you would think to do that, and just the logistics of doing that, because I think we mentioned this when we talked about Chaplin before, is his greatest strength and his greatest flaw was the fact that he had infinite pockets. He could kind of do whatever he wanted. I mean, in 25, I don't know how secure he was financially, but more or less he could do kind of whatever he wanted, and that meant that any idea came into his head, he'd be like, all right, yeah, let's do that. So his movies took forever to get released, his movies took forever to make, because they never had scripts. He just kind of figured it out as he went along, and they became these huge projects.
With the cabin teetering over the side of the cliff.
Yeah.
That was something that they wanted to try to do practically. They couldn't. And it was someone on set, on probably one of the special teams on set, that told him, we can build a small replica of the cabin and just, kind of force perspective shoot it.
Do it with miniatures.
Yeah, make it look like, it really is happening. And it's just like, for 25, 24, whenever this was filmed, that's big. Not compared to today where it's like, if we need to do a miniature of something just to, create the scene, no problem. We have a ton of artists on set that can create this. But in 25, I can imagine it was a small group of people that were like, okay, let's see if we can build this and make this look as realistic as possible.
I mean, people have been using miniatures in really early cinema, but it's the thing where it's integrated so well, and also when they do the gags where, it's obviously superimposed where they're over the image, but I'm like, it's kind of seamless.
Yeah.
There's okay, some of them are they're kind of looking a little floaty, but I'm like, look, if I wasn't really paying that close of attention, I could miss this. And I think that's just an interesting thing is, for 1925, Chaplin's still trying to push the envelope for what film can do, because, it's like, it sucks to suck, right? He's gonna make this movie, and then the next, 2 years, that's when sound kicks in. That's the jazz singer.
Yeah.
And then his career has to hard shift immediately, because, this is his last film released before the advent of sound.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we have, modern times that came out when sound was already a thing.
In 31, 33. You had, like, the next movie he releases is The Circus, which Circus is good.
Circus is a good movie.
But that releases in 28, a year after The Jazz Singer, and that movie was successful, but it wasn't as successful as The Gold Rush.
No.
And, you know, it's always the story of Chaplin of he held on to making silent films as long as he could until it just became impossible to work in mainstream, like, films anymore without making them sound pictures.
And I mean, you know, what a way to break into the sound with The Great Dictator.
Oh yeah. Like, The Great Dictator is a masterpiece. Again, it's like Gold Rush and Great Dictator. It depends on what day you're talking to me that they're the best movie.
Oh yeah, but it's like, I can see where he's coming from, where it's hard to imagine the little tramp speaking.
Yes, that's very true.
Because he is so able to, you know, convey his emotions and to, you know, make you feel your emotions with just his eyes or just, you know, a mannerism. And it's just like, yeah, I can't imagine him going off into, you know,
a monologue.
Onto a monologue where it's just like, it probably wouldn't make as big an impact as, you know, just his eyes.
It also doesn't help that Charlie Chaplin, because in real life Charlie Chaplin was English. He grew up in, like, very, very poor, like, circumstances. But as he got older, he kind of developed a very posh British accent. And
your Irish was coming through.
I know, my apologies. But he had a very, like, posh British accent that did not translate well to down on my luck tramp. Can't really, you know, get things on my side, but I'm gonna keep on trying. It's a thing where it's like, you know, he opens his mouth. He has a very nice voice. The 1942 version that I listened to, he narrates over the whole movie. Which, you know, it's a very nice voice. It sounds like your grandfather's telling you a bedtime story. It does not track with the guy on screen. No, at all.
And it goes with, you know, his message of wanting the tramp to be anybody. He could be anybody, any country. You know, this person could do it all.
And he is the ultimate everyman.
Yeah. Because it doesn't matter, you know, you don't have the subtitles. You could just sit there and watch his movie and understand what's happening, and you could feel something from the movie.
Do you think that's why Chaplin's endured for so long? And why the Gold Rush has endured for so long? Because, again, Gold Rush, he starts the worst of the worst he could, right? Shows up to Alaska. He has no money in his pocket. He's literally, the first thing that happens to him is he's trapped in a cabin with some crazy dudes, and he's gonna starve to death.
Well, I mean, you see him, you know, scaling the mountains, and he's just wearing his bowler and his suit. And
he's being followed by a bear, and he just doesn't notice it.
By a real black bear.
Okay, I did watch both versions of the movie, and the bear shows up, you know, in the beginning, and then the bear comes into the cabin as a whole thing. I was a little concerned because I knew this was 1925. Like, how close was he really to that fucking black bear? Was there some forced photography? I really hope there was.
I'm sure there was a little bit of forced photography to make sure that he was safe. But, you know, him being kind of a perfectionist, I could see him being like, well, yeah, I don't want a guy in a costume. Like, you know, when we do the scene, you know, when they're running out of the doors in the cabin with the bear, you know, it's like, I could see, you know, okay, now we need, you know, somebody in a costume. But for this, it's like, I want it to be, you know, a real black bear behind me.
Well, there's the one shot in the cabin where it's obviously a guy in a suit, right? And that's when Chaplin's actually, like, holding on and kind of wrestling with it.
Which makes sense.
But anytime he's not, like, touching it, then it's a real black bear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, like, am I going to see Chaplin get mauled? Like, is this happening? But
I mean, the 20s were a very different time.
Oh, God, yes. I mean, I know it's a thing where people are like, yeah, it's a fucking, you know, black bear. We use animals in movies all the time. Like, fucking, dude, back in the day, if that black bear got out of hand, there wasn't, like, a wrangler. It was a dude with a shotgun. Yeah. Like, it's wild. They were still shooting live rounds on set, which was wild to me. Because I think when they're playing, because there's the scene where they're playing around with a gun or whatever, and I think that's, like, a live round they fire in that scene.
Probably. I mean, I don't know when, you know, like, the dummy bullets came into be.
Well, it wasn't they came into be, they came into fashion, because up until, like, when James Cagney was doing, like, White Heat, the gangster movie, he had, like, issues on set because they were shooting real bullets at him when he was, like, ducking undercover.
Yeah, I would have issue with that, too.
Yeah, and it mostly is because he's like, why can't you get a guy who can aim better, who's not, like, getting so close to me? But that was like a real thing during James Cagney's time, and
Yeah.
that was in like the 30s and the 40s.
Mhm.
So I can imagine Chaplin's probably like, it'll be fine.
I'm fast, I can outrun him.
I'm quick.
Mm.
It's the whole thing where it's like, Keaton gets credit for being the better stuntman.
I mean, if a black bear were to get onto La Brea Boulevard at that time, it's just a bunch of orange groves.
It'd been fine.
Not like now, where there's cars and there's people and there's a lot going on.
There's things.
Yeah, there's things going on.
But it's like the thing where it's like Chaplin or Keaton was the better like stuntman. Like that was the power of Keaton's movies, is everything he did was real.
Did
right?
Keaton break his neck?
He broke his neck. I think he broke his ribs a few times, but he broke his neck on camera, and it's one of the famous shots. I think it's in Cops. He gets up on top of a train car, and he grabs one of those like ropes or whatever that goes to like the water to put in your steam engine. And he goes down, the water like releases, because it's a funny gag. Oh, he thought he was going to escape, gets covered in water, but it was 500 gallons of water dumped on his head.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see in the shot, he doesn't land on a pad, he lands on the railroad tracks. So he gets hit with that, breaks his neck, but he gets up, dusts himself off, and runs off. And it's all one shot. So he breaks his neck, gets up, and runs off.
Yeah.
He didn't realize he broke his neck until they did a physical for him when he was like in his 50s. But that's the thing. Keaton's stunts are like, way more impressive. Like they're way more like, wow, that's like way more hardcore. He's going farther than Chaplin
They're
ever
scary.
did. Some of them are scary, and that's like the impressive thing is, if Keaton's like 1 foot off either way, he's gonna die. But like with Chaplin, it's always fascinating to me when I see Chaplin do something more than like the pratfalls and stuff like that, because he wasn't as like a physical comedian as like Keaton was, but he was way more intelligent about building gags and making like very simple things work.
Like eating the shoe.
Eating the shoe is a funny sight gag. I was talking about the dog when they're doing the dance.
The dog.
Because that is one of the most like simple gags in the movie, and I laughed like crazy for it.
Yeah.
Because he picks up Georgia and they're having the nice dance, but his pants keep falling because the Charlie Chaplin's the tramp is a schmuck and doesn't own a belt, and
he's not a schmuck. He's just down on his luck and can't afford a belt.
And his pants are way too big. And he gets over to like a table, and he gets a rope and he needs to tie it around without Georgia noticing. He's like, finally. And then when they go off, you realize the rope's connected to a dog, and it's a big old dog. The dog's
following, yeah.
And then, they spook the dog, and the dog runs off and takes, the tramp with them. And it's like, that's really good setup to a joke. You have stakes, you have payoffs, and it's very like, interesting.
It's like when they eat the shoe, and then afterwards, there's no replacement shoe. So it's like, you gotta use whatever you have in your cabin.
I love that attention to continuity is after they eat the shoe, the tramp literally just has a rag over his foot for the rest of the movie.
With rope.
It's wonderful.
And it's like, good on them, even at the very end when they make him put on his costume or, his clothing when they found the mine. Like, could you put, your old mining clothes back on? We want to take a picture. And it's that attention to detail. He's got the rag with the rope on his foot. It's like, there's no replacement shoe. It's not like, oh crap, we didn't, think about this. We just kind of put him back in the costume. It's that attention to continuity.
I like it. That's skill right there.
That's
skill.
Kino.
But yeah, like, I mean, we could talk about Chaplin all day, right?
Oh yeah.
It's the thing with the Gold Rush in particular that I find so, like, interesting, because, like, a lot of people, like, he wants to be remembered for the Gold Rush, like we said as much earlier, but is this, and, I think we both kind of agree this is his best movie, at least his best silent movie, but it's interesting to me that as time has gone on, this has kind of lowered in people's opinions, in things like City Lights, The Great Dictator, have kind of risen as maybe critical consensus. These are his best films, these are most important work. And I'm wondering, do you think that's a new appreciation for his other work, or do you think that's people looking at the Gold Rush and thinking it's just a straight comedy, like it's not as like swan songy as City Lights is, it's not as historically important as The Great Dictator is? I'm wondering your thoughts on that. Why do you think the critics have changed?
I think more people are just going through his catalog of work, because there are so many films that he made that it's like, yeah, we have these really big films that everyone focuses on, but there's still more in the catalog. So it's like, I think people are finally going through and they're finally analyzing and saying, hey, he can produce, even if it's not, one of these big ones that, was the fifth, rated or grossing film of all time. It's just, that man was able to spin out gold like nobody's business.
I mean, I think his filmography isn't actually that big, if you're only counting features, right?
Yeah.
Because he has a lot of shorts.
A lot of shorts.
And let's be honest, most of the shorts are lost to time at this point. But for features, I thought he only made like 10 movies.
I mean, that's still pretty good.
That's like, Tarantino's going out at 10, right?
Yeah.
But like, you think about it, he had a career that lasted from the 19 teens? 20? Like, when did The Kid come out? Was that like 1919 or 1920?
I think The Kid was 1920.
Okay, because if it's like 1920 or whatever, all the way to his last movie, like Lady is Shanghai, I think that was like the 50s, I think? Maybe the 60s?
The Kid was 1921. He did Limelight, which I think was in the 60s. Monsieur Verdot, that was maybe like the 50s.
I think Verdot was like the 40s, like the mid-40s. Because I think it was like right after the war, and that's the movie that got him into a bunch of trouble, and he couldn't come back to America. But I guess it's kind of like neither here nor there.
47.
Yeah, I guess it's neither here nor there, but it's a thing where it's interesting that Chaplin's career spans 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
He makes 10 movies. That's like Stanley Kubrick, right?
Yeah.
He starts in the 50s, gets all the way to like 1999, 13 films.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's kind of weird with Chaplin where it's like, with films like when there's not that much in his like catalog, that you can still find new appreciation for movies.
Yeah.
The critical reappraisal of Vertigo, right? People thought that was Hitchcock's worst movie. Then it was like, it's one of the Hitchcock's better movies. Now it's Hitchcock's best movie.
Yeah, that makes no sense how people would think that was one of his worst films.
It happens all the time.
It's like Vertigo is just, I don't even know. I'm in awe every time I watch it.
I mean, like, I can see why people wouldn't like Vertigo, but not appreciate Vertigo is different. It's like, The Great Dictator, I don't know if that movie actually made all that much money. Because I think that movie was another one of those films that got critically reappraised later on. Because, when it came out, everyone was like, oh, Chaplin's doing a riff on Hitler, and that's way too serious a subject for a clown to be making fun of, and it's all these other things. But
I mean, the box office for The Great Dictator was $5 million.
Oh, that's pretty good for what,
1940?
For 40? Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, but that is a movie where people generally reappraised it later on, saying like, no, Chaplin's best work is in the silent era.
Yeah.
His sounds films are good, but his best work's in the silent era. I didn't hear people talking The Great Dictator as his best work until maybe 10 years ago, something like that.
I mean, you also saw The Great Dictator for the first time like 10 years ago.
See, like I was late to the party,
So, it was brand new to you. You're like, wow, they're just barely talking about it. Like, nah, dude, it was new to you.
That happens. That's the beauty, of this podcast. It's the window of my observations is all I am bound to. But yeah. There's also the whole thing about the Gold Rush. There's like the two versions.
Yeah.
Have you seen both?
I've only seen the original. I haven't seen the
42. Oh, really?
Well, yeah, you've had my Criterion this whole time, so I haven't been able to watch it.
I apologize. But I mean, like Chaplin did go back and he re-released like all of his silent films.
Yeah.
And he got rid of all the title cards, and he rescored all of them, and he added his own narration over it to basically tell you the story. And
which is, again, just he's miles and miles ahead of his time.
He George Lucas'd his movies before anyone else.
He did.
He re-edited the movies too.
Yeah.
Which also, by the way, like, because again, I watched both of them. The 42 version, I don't think is better than the original, but it makes the Georgia character way more likable. Like, way better. Like, it cuts a lot of her, like, oh, I'm just being mean because I'm, the pretty girl and you're the nerd. It cuts a lot of that shit. It makes her, like, more resistant to the handsome Jack character.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it way more sympathetic throughout the movie. But also the ending, they don't kiss anymore.
Yeah.
Because by that time he divorced her, so whatever.
Yeah, which, we're going to have to talk about Georgia because that's an interesting story in itself.
Which doesn't help because Georgia, the character, was played by Georgia Hale, the actress.
Yes.
They're both Georgia.
Georgia Hale plays Georgia in the movie, but that's not originally who was Georgia in the movie. It was actually Lita Gray, who became Chaplin's wife during the production of this film.
Okay. Was that wife number 3?
I'm not sure. I'd have to pull something up to see,
which wife that was?
I think this is wife number 2.
Okay.
But,
Chaplin had a lot of wives.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing where, she was supposed to be Georgia. I think she shot a little bit of her scenes.
Uh-huh.
She ended up getting pregnant during production, and they figured, let's switch her out, because, yeah, you're gonna have...
She's gonna start showing eventually, and then you're gonna have to just stop production anyway.
Yeah, because, Georgia's costumes in the movie are either, the slinky black dress that we see whenever they're in the dance hall, or the big furry coat when they're out in public.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, obviously she's gonna start showing soon. And I know production was also halted for a little while because his twins were born during the production of this film.
See, that's the wild thing about this movie and about Chaplin in general. And when I say like, oh, his greatest flaw was all the infinite money and he just took so long for everything. He literally cast his wife in the movie. They shot some. She got pregnant. The twins were born, and he was still he was still shooting the movie.
And they had to slow production down because the twins were born, and he was like, I need to be there for the birth of my children. So that's why it kind of makes sense why there aren't so many feature films, because life stuff was going on, and it was like, well, it's my studio, it's my money, so I can, put the cap on it with, all right, I gotta be home to do this, and that. I'll come back to the project, in a couple of weeks or in a month. It's
just the thing where it takes him so long to make a movie.
It does, but then you see...
we haven't had a movie from the guy in 70, 80 years now. That's slow poke Chaplin.
One of these days we're getting a new film.
One day.
But, with all these roadblocks that he hits when he's making these movies, and then you get the final product and you're like, wow, this is amazing. This is one of the greatest films of all time.
Well, I think that's again, I'm mostly being snarky when I say, oh, he took so long and blah, blah, blah. He had infinite money. Like, it sucked because we didn't have a lot of stuff from the guy. Like, if he, compromised a little bit, we would have probably had double the output. But if he compromised a little bit, we might have had worse films,
Yeah, and it just makes it more interesting, drama-wise, was that the beginning of this film, the making of this film, Lita Gray wasn't his wife. This was someone that he, met, really liked her.
She became wife number 3 not too long after the Gold Rush wraps.
She became wife number 2 because, she did become pregnant. They kind of found out that they weren't really compatible with each other. And then Georgia Hale, who was the leading lady of the film, they started up
That's right, Georgia Hale's wife number 3.
I don't know if she's wife number 3 or...
Well, she's after Lita Gray.
She's after Lita Gray, but I think they just kind of had an affair together. So that's when we get the kiss in the end. This is like, oh no, I have feelings for you. This is a real kiss. This isn't I gotta fake it for the cameras. This is like,
you feel the spark.
Oh yeah, you could totally see the spark. I've seen that clip of the two of them kissing on the back of the boat used for so many different promotional things. They're like, oh, isn't this cute? Back in the black and white days, even people were romantic back then. It's like, yeah, they're people, romance and love existed.
It's like a thing where it's like, guys, we've been smooching dames since the dawn of time.
Who doesn't love a good smooching?
Smooching dames.
I know you've missed doing that.
I've missed...
We haven't recorded in a long time.
Yeah. Peek behind the camera. We haven't recorded an episode in Like a month?
Yeah, I think our year in review we recorded like the last week in November. It's
Yeah.
been a while.
It's been a very long time. We needed to take breaks.
We're back, we're ready, and it's interesting to see because, you're able to talk about the genius of these actors, filmmakers, directors, but just to see, the personal stuff that they were also dealing with at the time. It's like, okay, so you started a relationship, you got married, you had children, your relationship dissolved, and then you started another relationship, all within the span of one film.
One film production.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, again,
hadn't even been cut yet. This is still the filming.
Absolutely insane.
But apart from all the craziness that was going on in his personal life, we gotta talk about one of the most iconic scenes of this movie.
Great segue.
We have to.
The marriage fell apart, but there's one really awesome scene in this movie.
It is. The roll dance.
Yeah, it's like, that is probably the most iconic Chaplin bit, honestly. Because I can't think of anything more, like, permeated in pop culture.
I mean, apart from him walking around with his cane, him sitting at the table doing the roll dance, it's also one of the saddest scenes of the movie.
It really is.
Because it's so cute. He's doing the roll dance for Georgia and her girlfriends who are over for New Year's Eve dinner.
But they're not really over. It's just a dream he's having. Like, oh, I can't wait for them to get here. And he does the whole thing. And it's also something that's been parodied a bunch.
Yeah, because this, I guess, was in a Fatty Arbuckle short. I think in the early 20s or the teens.
Yeah, and it was in an Arbuckle short before this. But Chaplin, it's like the thing where it's like, oh, D.W. Griffith didn't invent anything. He just stole it. Well, yeah, but he made it popular. That's what Chaplin did with the roll dance. Yeah. And now everyone mimics the Chaplin roll dance.
Yeah, I guess it was in a movie called The Rough House that came out in 1917, or a short that came out. But, it probably wasn't to this elevated level that Chaplin does, where it's just, oh, let me impress the girls, let me do this roll dance. And then we'll see it again in Benny and June with Johnny Depp. Mm-hmm. We see it in Chaplin where Robert Downey Jr. does it.
We see it in The Simpsons.
It's been done so many times. But in, these great montages they do of Charlie Chaplin, that's always one of the big highlights is him doing the roll dance.
And I think it's because that scene isn't just for comedic effect. It's also a scene that kind of encapsulates the character, the drama, the sadness of it. He's not doing it to impress the girls. He's fantasizing about doing it to impress girls that aren't there.
Yeah.
It's a thing where he's like, oh, I came up with this bit and I can't wait to show somebody because, they're going to think it's so sweet and a humdinger.
That scene broke my heart. It's like, he worked shoveling businesses, out of the snow so that he can not only cook them a dinner, he also bought them presents. He decorated the cabin for them, and it's heartbreaking when he wakes up and the candles have burnt all the way down.
This is an accidental New Year's film. Watch it at New Year's. Great way to start the year.
Just upset.
Just sad, disappointed in life. No one loves me, I'm alone.
And then, the handsome jackass and the girls show up and George is like, wow, we really took this prank too far.
We were really mean to this guy.
When we had no right to be.
And in the 25 version, oh, fuck him, whatever. In the 42 version, oh, what have I done? It's, again, I only bring it up because it is like a night and day difference.
You're going to have to let me have my Criterion back so I can compare the
Never
two.
going to happen. But it is hilarious, honestly. Just, it's one of those things where the Gold Rush, to me, is just, it has Chaplin's best, like, emotional beat in his filmography. It has the best comedic beats in his filmography. It's the most impressive to look at.
Yeah.
Just like the scale, the lengths he went to get the gags to work, the sets he built, the special effects of superimpositions. Computers weren't invented. He had to do that shit by hand.
Yeah.
And it's also the thing where, like, watching it, it's the most, like, sympathetic, I think, I've ever seen The Tramp. Because I'm not a Chaplin guy.
I think the most sympathetic is probably this film and The Kid. Where, he takes on, this abandoned baby. And it's just, what do I do? I've never been a parent, and it's just, him, kind of learning how to be a parent, and then the state wanting to come in and take the little boy away from it. And it's like, no, this is my child. And it's just...
You watch...
Oh, it makes me cry every time.
You watch the kid, and then you hear Toshiro Mifune from Seven Samurai with the baby in the burning village. It was me the whole time. And that's Chaplin for the kid, right?
No, then you hear, you gotta play over his song Smile. That'll really just...
snap your soul in half.
So bad.
But like I was saying, like, Chaplin's never been, like, my guy. Like,
you're a Keaton guy.
I'm a Keaton guy, right? Because I find, like, Keaton's movies just, on average, funnier. I find, like, the stunt... Like, just the work involved is more impressive.
And we're talking about Buster Keaton. Because if we're talking Keatons, Michael Keaton's my man.
Of course. Really, Michael Keaton.
I love Michael Keaton.
Interesting. But... Like,
He's Batman.
Of course, yeah. But I'm, like, a Buster Keaton fan. I think his movies just, on average, are a little more, like, impressive. They're funnier on average. But, like, Chaplin...
Do a backflip.
I mean, he can do a backflip. But, like, the Chaplin movies that I've seen, because I've seen a lot of them at this point, they're way more... How do I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. If, as a filmmaker, they're more put together, right? Like, the compositions are a little cleaner, and Chaplin's way more involved in, like, sentimentality and drama than, like, Keaton is, because his movies, I think Charlie Chaplin is annoyed he had to make comedies, because I know before the Gold Rush he tried to make a straight drama, and that one failed. I don't even think he started it. Like, he directed it. And it was a straight drama, and it failed. And then he was like, all right, fine. You don't like my dramas, then I'm going to make a comedy. I'm going to make a comedy so fucking big, you're going to wish I never made a comedy ever again. And then he made The Gold Rush. And
it's so shocking that this was his first United Artists film that he starred in.
Yeah.
And it's The Gold Rush.
Yeah.
It's like, you create a company with your two best friends, Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks. And it's like,
he really third-wheeled on that relationship.
And then you're gonna, make one of the greatest films of all time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, that's the thing. Because the first movie he made for them, that was... I'm now gonna totally blank on the name. Because it was the one he directed and starred in, so no one fucking cares about it. And that's what everyone at the time thought. No one fucking cares about it. You didn't star in it. It wasn't funny. Sorry, Charlie. Try again next time. So he makes The Gold Rush. That's the big hit. And it's almost a thing where I wonder if Chaplin resented it a little bit, that he couldn't break away from the Tramp. And I know he, like, loved the Tramp, and that was, like, that universal character, the everyman, but he could only really make, like, the films as the Tramp throughout his, like,
and
career.
I think it just goes with everybody that gets typecast as a character. You begin to resent that character after a while. After you leave that character for a while, then you're like, you know what? I kind of miss him. It wasn't that bad. I think, it was just, I needed a break from that person. But it's like,
It's also a thing where it feels like Charlie Chaplin has tried to do the send-off to the Tramp, like, 3 fucking times in his career, and each time he's like, every time I try to get out, they pull me back in. It was fucking Godfather 3 all over again. They kept pulling him back in.
Oh, no.
Not in quality in terms of that one line. I don't know if we'll ever do Godfather Part 3 on this podcast.
I told you, don't watch it. You didn't want to listen to me.
I needed to know. I needed to know how bad it was. It wasn't that bad.
And did you learn?
It wasn't that bad. It was pretty fucking bad. But yeah, like, it's just a thing that's interesting about, like, the film in particular, because it's a movie that has a lot of weird history to it. It's also a movie that has evolved a lot, because, we're talking about movie like the reappraisal of his films, right? How City Lights overtook this is his most, like, critically popular film. How The Great Dictator, through my little window, but on average, the people I talk to, if they've seen a Chaplin movie, they like The Great Dictator most. But this movie, when he re-released it or re-edited, he George Lucased it, right?
Yes.
This thing won 2 fucking Oscars.
It did.
Or it didn't win. It was nominated for 2 Oscars. Silent film, right? Silent film star. What's it nominated for? Music and sound design. I wonder if Chaplin was a little peeved.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, considering he had his hand in everything in this movie, it's like, what about set design? What about Best Picture?
Could I get a Best Actor nod?
Best Actor nod. I don't know when Best Screenplay came in, if that was one of the
I think it was there already.
Okay.
By 42, I think it was already there. Yeah, no, it was definitely already there. 100% was already there, because Kane won Best Screenplay in 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand, totally pissed off. It's like he put his blood, sweat, and tears into this movie. And it's just like, yeah, I can see where, it's like, okay, this other movie took it, but, the actor just acted. When you have, it's like...
I'm sorry to interrupt, I swear, alright, Beyonce had the best music video of all time. I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt you.
Don't yay it up.
It'll be great. I'm sorry, I couldn't even make a yay joke in a straight face. But, it's funny because when you think about it, it's a re-release of a movie from like 20 years beforehand, and the Academy's like, yeah, it's still the best picture this year. If George Lucas re-released Star Wars in theaters in just like the recut where Han doesn't shoot first or whatever, and that was nominated for Best Picture, I think people will look at it crossways, right?
Well, Han shot first.
Yes, he did, but not of the re-release, not of the re-edit.
We don't accept that.
We don't accept that.
We don't accept that. Han shot first.
Like that version doesn't exist. I burned my VHS copies. It was awful. But
except if you don't burn VHS, you just trade them.
Exactly. But it's weird to think about, right?
Yeah.
Where it's not even like a remake, because it's the same director or whatever, and it's the same movie generally. Yeah. He just updated it for the talking or sound audience, right? But it's weird it was nominated for Oscars. It was weird that everyone was like, yeah, this is still the best shit that's going on today, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes with when he got his honorary Oscar in the 70s, and he had that 12-minute standing ovation. It's just like, it's like this man that helped, evolve film, that it's like, decades later, people are still, no, your films were some of the greatest of all time. We can never forget them.
Also, to your point, like, it's in the 70s. Chaplin already had, 2 strokes and was, on his deathbed, and they're like, now we're gonna honor you. Why didn't they give it to him back when, in the 50s, when everybody started, coming back to his movies, when TV kicked on and his stuff just played forever?
I mean, you had, a lot of political stuff, the stuff with him and Hoover. There was just a lot going on.
They had to wait for Hoover to die for Chaplin to, I wonder if that's one of Charlie Chaplin's greatest achievements in life. Something he's, lying there, he's, 80-something, he's like, darling... My greatest achievement was I outlived that prick Hoover. Fuck that guy.
I mean, Hoover made his life a living hell for no reason.
He made everyone's life a living hell.
For no reason.
I mean, okay, yeah, don't get me wrong. There were some reasons people would not like Charlie Chaplin on a personal level.
But I mean, the fact that you're there to just bully because you got nothing better to do?
Yeah, basically, that's the Hoover way.
So it's like, just let this man create film. Don't exile him out of the country.
Don't run him off to Switzerland so he could be talked to by Anthony Hopkins.
I mean, we love Anthony Hopkins.
We do, but Anthony Hopkins isn't real. That's another thing about that movie that irks me, is that character's not real.
Well, I mean, Sir Anthony Hopkins is very real.
Yeah, but that character
the character that he portrays, is not.
In Chaplin is not real. Yeah. But yeah, this is one of those movies that's really weird to talk about because it's kind of a perfect movie.
It is.
It just, yeah.
It is. I mean, the chicken scene's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean,
the chicken scene's hilarious.
I mean, we get a lot of men in chicken outfits often in TV and film. I feel like this is the dawn of it.
Chaplin did it better. If he didn't do it first, he did it the best.
They had, someone else, a stunt person, perform the chicken thing, and they were like, they can't mimic Charlie. So Charlie's like, you know what, let me hop into the outfit and I'll be the chicken too.
I don't think it was nearly that, altruistic. It's like, you know what, I know I'm tired, but I will take it. It was probably like, You know what? He can't do it right.
Mhm.
I am Charlie fucking Get me the costume. You hold my stogie. All right, we're gonna do this from the top. All right, everybody. All right, places. Because I imagine Chaplin was kind of like a Gene Kelly type, where he was like, "Look, I know your feet are bleeding, but we need a couple more goes because you're just not hitting your marks." I feel Chaplin was that kind of level perfectionist.
He's a perfectionist. Hey, you're the same way on set too.
Fine.
You try doing all the jobs, and I've got to be like, you need to take a break. Let people, do what they need to do, and you're like, I'm just gonna go quietly scream outside.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm not that bad. Fine. But yeah, it is kind of a perfect movie. It has drama, it has tension, there's action in it, there's, the romance, even if the romance doesn't always play, because it's like, I don't know if I like her or not.
Yeah.
By the end of it, and that sweet, scene where, she saves him and he like just is so ecstatic and they kiss. It's a sweet scene.
I mean, it also shows, Charlie Chaplin where he could have written it, where, oh yeah, I've become wealthy.
Blew. I thought that's where it was going the first time I watched this movie.
He totally could have blown her off and been like, "Oh, Georgia, yeah, I remember you. You left me for handsome jackass. Well, screw you. I'm gonna leave you." And
he should have, when she's like, "Oh no," saves him, and then she's like, and he starts walking up, and she's like, "But Charlie, lone prospector, aren't you gonna take me with you?" And he's like, "Honey, you can go with Jack. I got a nicer," and it pans up and it's his now pregnant wife up there, and then he's like, and he just walks off, music swells, big explosions, doves flying, doves everywhere.
This isn't Big Fat Liar, okay?
Doves everywhere.
But, that's just, a testament to his character, where it's just, yeah, she's done him wrong, he still loves her, he's loved her from afar, and then, he makes her redeem her character, where it's, oh, there's a stowaway on the ship, and, even though she's traveling with what little she has, she's willing to pay his ticket fee to make sure that he doesn't get arrested.
I think that's the only thing I think this movie could be improved by, is if there was a dual love, interest. If there was Georgia, the one that Charlie pined for, and then there was another girl that the tramp ignored, but who loved him, and the end of it or whatever, like he goes with the the good one and not the hot one.
No.
I know it's cliche as fuck, but it's 1925.
It's up there with your cliche of take off your glasses. My God, you're gorgeous.
I hate that cliche.
You love that cliche.
That cliche is the death of subtlety in cinema. And in the Barbie movie, it worked because it was hilarious. But
it's one of the best scenes.
But in
I'm so ugly. Well, if you took off your glasses, I could see your pretty face.
If I took your glasses off, you'd still be Margot Robbie. Did you notice?
Except that's one of the other Barbies.
I know it's one of the other Barbies. You get my point.
No, one of my favorite from that sequence is the Barbie where she's like, this Photoshop is just too hard. And then the
you
kid
tried
comes
the
up.
select tool?
He's like, if you have the select tool and the layer selected, it's a lot easier. It's like, yes.
No. The one thing about Barbie that I know is your favorite, because you shouted it in the theater.
I jumped up and I was like, that's my boyfriend.
He was like, hey, is this The Godfather? Yeah. Have you never seen it? I've never seen The Godfather. Do you want to sit here and have me talk over the whole movie while we try to watch it? That sounds great. And you were like, I've never felt more seen in a movie. Fuck Dean. He's ruined every movie experience we ever had because he talks over it all.
What makes it better was that you watched this with your family and your sister for her birthday, and all of your family turned to the Dean, that's you!
I know, I'm an awful human being, but I'm not that bad. But,
no, you just love your tropes.
Again,
I don't think we needed another love interest. I mean, we already had the triangle with handsome jackass, the lonely prospector, and Georgia.
It's the thing where I wanted a more earned love interest. Like it feels like here's the thing.
It's earned.
No, it's the thing where I feel the lone prospector, he is earned to be loved, right? He has worked hard. He has faced all these obstacles. He's almost died a bunch of times. Fought a black bear. Almost fell off a cliff. Right? Boom. He's earned his status. He became a millionaire. We're like, go for him. but it feels like Georgia, we don't see her, like, do enough to, like, be the reciprocal of his love, right?
I think that's where we have to step in as viewers and kind of put the pieces together where, when she slaps handsome jackass in the face when he's trying to kiss her, when she's, kind of, like, she's finally saying, you know what, I can't be doing this anymore.
Well, here's the problem, because she writes the note, like, I'm sorry for what happened last night, I love you, and gives it to Jack, and then Jack, as a cruel joke, gives it to the tramp, gives it to the lone prospector, Charlie Chaplin, the artist formerly known as Prince, gives it to him, and then he thinks, oh, Georgia, you do love me, and then he's like, I love you, blah, 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 and she's, like, confused about it. And then the next time we see her, she's just on the boat. And it's like a thing where, like, we can get the context of, like, oh, you were so mean to that guy. I don't love you anymore, Jack. I'm leaving. I'm going back to the mainland because I hate Alaska. Because, be real with you, I assume most pretty women hate Alaska. Just a thought. Or at least being stuck in a prospecting town at the turn of the century, Alaska.
I mean, when you watch videos now, like vlogs of people living in Alaska, I mean, just the prices alone of groceries, because things have to be imported to Alaska. It's like, yeah, that'd be the turnoff where, my groceries shouldn't be $500.
It's just a thing.
It's a thing.
But, like, that's the next time we see her. She's leaving Alaska, and then we have the tramp there, and he's now rich, and he's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And the only true, sincere act of kindness she implements is
when she hides him from the security on the ship
because they're looking for a stowaway,
and when she's fighting to keep him on the ship and willing to pay. But what I'm saying as a viewer of the movie, we get these little bits and pieces where when she finds her portrait and the flower underneath his pillow, and it's like obviously the girlfriends chime in, they're laughing and they're like, oh, what a nerd, he kept this picture of you, but we see it in her eyes where she's, kind of softening it, wow, Jack wouldn't do this for me. Jack, wouldn't care. He wouldn't, keep this, piece of me with him. So it's like we start to see her soften, but because her friends are bullies, she kind of has to be, oh, you guys are right. Yeah, what a loser. But it's like, on the inside, we can see like, wow, what? No one's ever really, vowed to love me and to take care of me and willing to go into, absolute harsh conditions to make sure that I never have to work another day in my life.
No one's... I can see that because her performance is giving you that. Her performance is definitely telling you, oh, like, this guy is sweet on me. He's a good, honest person. Maybe I could love him, right? But it's a thing where as the movie goes on, there always feels like she is almost humoring him a little bit. Like she's kind of stringing him along. It almost feels like, I got the hots for Jack. And, you're nice and sweet. So if Jack ever leaves, then, yeah, I'll settle for you.
Yeah.
And it's the thing where it's like in the 42 version, it's way more like Jack's kind of just a handsy asshole.
Yeah.
And she's more sincerely like pining for, it's like a mutual like love, right?
Yeah.
In the 42 re-release. And I think Chaplin did that consciously because you can read Georgia being a not good person in the 25 release.
Yeah.
And I think he brings it way more to the forward in the 42, so it's just way more clear that no, she always loved him from the start, yada yada yada. Me and her were banging on set. It's totally fine, guys. We were there.
That's why it's like, I think you really have to look through the character and be like, yeah, she's got the hots for Jack, but it's just, is he going to be able to stand up to the level that the lonely prospector can? No. Because Jack will take off in a heartbeat to go take care of Jack.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another, new pretty dancer at the dance hall. Oh, yeah. I'll go after her and, I'll come back for you later when, things kind of go sour between the two of us.
It's almost the thing where I wish there was more explored with the Jack Georgia character. Because, like, yeah, obviously we're not going to have a lot. Like, the movie is already long for a silent comedy. I think it's the longest film Chaplin ever directed. It's like 100 minutes. It's like 99 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, that I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might be. I don't really know. but it's a pretty long movie, all things considered, for a comedy. And it's one of those things where I want a little more, like, with Georgia, just so it feels like she is actually confrontational with Jack. Jack isn't. Yeah, Jack's an asshole, but I want it to be more apparent that Georgia is not okay with him being that level of an asshole.
Yeah.
She's with him because he can take care of her,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe she's, like, really does like the tramp because he's sweet. She likes the lone prospector because he's kind to her, but she's like, I can't be with you because you couldn't take care of me. Like, I want a development of that in this movie, and it's the only flaw of this movie that is, other than that, fucking flawless.
Yeah, and I mean, for a movie of this time, it's not like movies now where we have that time to kind of build on the character growth.
A 3-hour movie isn't something that's alien to theaters anymore.
No, and so that's why, with this movie of this time and day, it's like, yeah, I could see where you need to cut corners and kind of, if we're going to focus on character growth, it's going to be The Lonely Prospector.
And it's also like, Chaplin had full reign and maximum power. And he's like, I'm the fucking star. And the last movie I made that I wasn't on screen didn't do well. So it's a conscious choice.
And because, he's a genius, he's like, yeah, I could have her redeem herself in just a scene. I can, quickly. I mean, not, not
different of opinions. I think she's not redeemed enough.
No, it's not enough, but I mean, enough to, feel like there's something there. Versus, some movies where they leave you kind of with, well, I don't feel content with how this ended. I feel like there's something still missing.
Or movies that end and make you angry, like La La Land.
I mean, I did see a reel the other day where they're like, hey, you want to finish La La Land and not feel like your heart's broken? Just end it 9 minutes earlier before it ends. And I was like, you know what? You got a point there. I think I'm going to start doing that, because every day I wake up and I'm like, fuck, me and Seb should have ended up together. It should have been this way.
No, that's not the point of the movie.
No, I want it to be happy, damn it.
Oh, God. Life isn't about happy endings. That's the whole point of La La Land.
Ugh.
But, yeah, The Gold Rush has a happy ending. And I can see where you're getting at, where maybe she doesn't, like, it's not all the way there, but she's on the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's something where it's like, now she, like the tramp has taken all these steps towards her, waiting for her to take one step towards him. And finally, at the end, she takes that one step towards him, and then that's like, okay, now that's a foundation. You guys can work on it.
As well as her being on the boat alone. I mean, that could have been the first step. It could have been, you know what? He went off to do this, and, you know what? I'm finally going to leave Jack. I'm going to go off on my own, and I'm going to figure it out, because this is just toxic. So it's like, you know, it could have been, wow, she took that initial step. Jack isn't here with her. Her girlfriends aren't here with her. And now she's doing whatever she can to protect me. All because I was nice to her when we lived in the same town a few years ago. Because I think it's been like 2 years.
Something like that. Like the whole course of the movie?
No, after they find the gold and they're, you know, coming back. I don't know if it's like 2 years or it's been like a year. You know, a good chunk of time's gone by.
Oh, for like the ending when they find the gold versus when they're on the boat?
Yeah.
It's just a straight cut. I don't think it's that. I don't even know if they mentioned a time skip.
I thought I saw somewhere that there had been, you know,
a
year. You know, I thought I saw on a title card somewhere that a year or something had passed.
It might be. I'm not gonna lie. It might be there. You've seen this movie way more than I have.
That's why I feel like, you know, there must have been something there.
Because 2 years is in your head somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know why that 2 years is sticking with me. But yeah, I think that just could have been a thing where, you know, he saw that she took the initial step and then trying to protect them and be like, you know what? That's enough for me. It's like, you know, I've already loved her unconditionally. And it's, you know, she finally did something for me unconditionally. And it's like, it was worth.
It's a sweet look on the film. I will say that. And I will say that is more than likely Chaplin's intention. And I think it's a thing, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still give this movie like 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Yeah. It's great film, perfect. It's just like the one gripe I have with the movie that just irks me. And even then, I still don't like how he tried to fix it on the re-release. But, you know, like, neither here nor there. Final thoughts on The Gold Rush.
I mean, I absolutely adore this movie. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend. It's on HBO Max. It's really easy to find.
Yeah, I believe it's public domain. The 25 version is public domain.
Yeah, that became public domain because they just didn't renew the royalties on it.
It's also almost 100 years old.
Yeah, so it is a thing that you can watch. It's probably on YouTube somewhere.
Oh,
To be
it
honest,
is. It's like 15 copies are on YouTube.
But to tie it to personal feelings to me, uh, being able to go down to a studio that still exists. It's now the Jim Henson Studio. But to actually see that these buildings are still there and see that a colossal movie like this was just filmed on this tiny studio, it's magic. And that's the kind of vibe that I get when we go. It's just, it's like, wow, he really was magic and he was able to create magic here. So it makes these movies more special to me as a Charlie Chaplin fan. But what about you? What's your takeaway from this?
This again, I think I said it at the top. This is probably my favorite Chaplin movie. It to me again, like I've been saying the whole episode, best gags, best narrative arc for the tramp. It's a 5-star movie. The one gripe I have with it is a very complicated way to navigate, and I think Chaplin did it the best way he could. And, speaking of, the experience you had going to the Chaplin Studios, it is a thing where he is such a early, like, filmmaker, director. He was creating magic on screen. And I think it was David Lean, the guy who directed, like, Lawrence of Arabia, Bridge Over the River Kwai, Dr. Zhivago. I think he said it best. Movies are a sort of dream. You're crafting dreams. That's what movies are. And I think that's what Chaplin is kind of doing. It's this like very beautiful like nightmare that turns into this lovely dream, into this comedy of surrealism. And I think it's a very beautifully made movie, and it still stands the test of time almost 100 years on.
Oh yeah.
You can still show this to people. I granted, I think this plays great for kids.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
there's so much physical comedy in this.
Piss easy, you can show this to like a little kid and you're golden. Adults, some of them might appreciate it as like an artistic thing, but there's something in there that's gonna make you laugh. It's still a well-made movie.
But I do have one boo fact before we finish the episode and plug what next week is gonna have.
Oh, whatever that may be, because I don't know what we're doing next week.
You know. But my boo fact of the day is the shoe, because a shoe is consumed in this movie. It was made out of licorice.
Delicious black licorice. I prefer the shoe. I fucking hate black licorice.
Yeah, I am not a black licorice fan. Hopefully it was red licorice, and because it's,
black and white.
Black and white, you really don't pick up on the red, but...
that was the thing when he was eating the candle, and in my head I'm like, is that just a carrot? Because I was trying to think.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out, too. I'm like, that looked kind of, the way that a carrot would break when you bite into it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do more research to figure out what the candle was. Or you might have been like, you know what, we going full method, yo. I'm eating a candle today.
Chaplin's like, I'm gonna do it myself. Hold my fucking stogie. Bring me the candle. He had a posh British accent, but on set, straight Brooklyn.
Yes.
Brooklyn rage.
It makes so much sense. But next week at the film club, we're going to be watching a movie that I've only seen pieces of, but I, haven't seen the full thing in its entirety. I think this movie is older than The Gold Rush. Not too sure. But we're going to be talking about Metropolis.
Oh, Metropolis. Yes. Okay, so Metropolis, I believe, is 1927. It's a little older, but it was made...
Well, no, this is 25.
Sorry. Yeah. So, The Gold Rush is a little older. But Metropolis, it's made by Fritz Lang. It was made in Germany. It is, I would argue, like, The Gold Rush is impressive, right? Biggest American economy. When you watch Metropolis, that might be the most impressive production any silent film has had.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's stuff like Intolerance, where it's just you look at that and you're like, how the fuck could you have enough money to make this? Things like that. Or like Napoleon, where it's like, fuck, that's a huge movie. But yeah, Metropolis, that's Fritz Lang. He is one of the greats. He's one of the goats of goats directors. And that's one of his masterpieces. I've seen that movie a couple of times, and there's a bunch of different versions because it got lost and found a lot of times.
Yeah.
But yeah, Metropolis is a really good one. I'm surprised you've never seen it before.
It's a thing where, I've seen like some of the big key scenes, but I just haven't sat down and watched it in its entirety. So I'm excited to kind of, really see it for the first time and to try to analyze it.
Oh, you're gonna go in with the monocle.
I'm gonna try. I have a feeling I'm just gonna be sitting there like, what is going on?
No, it's not nearly as surreal and weird as you would think it is.
So we're not going full Lynch.
No, God, no.
Okay.
No. No, the movie it's German expressionistic. Mm-hmm. It's very, sci-fi and, high concept. You'll understand when you watch the movie.
And I know it's, a lot like Chaplin, where it's, very innovative for its time.
Oh, it's insanely innovative.
Yeah.
Again, there's the opening couple of minutes you're gonna watch and you're like, how the fuck do you make this in 1927? But it's one of those movies that I think you're gonna like, and when you watch it, I ain't gonna lie to you, baby. Chaplin, political filmmaker. Lang was a big P political filmmaker, and you'll see it in this movie. And there's some people who Chaplin might have made fun of who really like this movie for such reasons. But we'll get into that next week at the Film Club. But where can they go? They wanted to listen to that episode.
Well, if you want to listen to us on a different platform than you currently are, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Podbean, also YouTube.
Yes, you can go to our YouTube channel, The Film Vault. That's The Film Vault on YouTube. Go there, like, comment, subscribe. I am trying my best to catch up to our current release schedule. That, for some reason, it just takes me a long time to get there.
It'd be like that sometimes.
But yes, we should be doing just huge mass uploads of some of our previous months to try and catch up. So you might be getting like 4 videos in a week. So look forward to that.
It'll be interesting.
But if you wanted to know when we were dropping episodes, who our guests are going to be, and maybe future events we're going to, you can follow us on our social medias at
The Film Club Podcast on Instagram, where, I mean, that's our only social media at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's also the only place you can go to like interact with us, because we do not check YouTube comments or anything like that.
No, we don't. But yeah, you want to, comment on our posts, DM us. Hit us up on Instagram, or like Dean said, you could see who our guests are going to be, upcoming episodes, also events that we go to.
Is also where we collect our FAQs for the end of the year. So if you drop a question, we will probably legitimately answer it for you at some point.
And I mean, we love our year in review. It just came out. Favorite episode, really.
Your favorite episode every year.
Every year, because we get to talk about all the movies.
But next week, we talk about a new movie. And with that,
we'll see you next week at the Film Club.
Have a good week, everybody.